And now, broadcasting from Titletown, USA, here's Joe Simon.
It's the Joe Simon Podcast. Today we dig into what is touching us from all angles of the earth today, and that is AI. And I know, before we get too deep into this, typically we talk about financial strategies, beneficial money. Where are we going with our decisions when it has to do with our risk and reward? But you know what? There's a new base that we're standing on, and it has to do with AI. How about you? Can you relate to this? We've got a special guest in the waiting, and I want to introduce him right now. As we get into this, we're going to have three things that we drill down on because there's 100 that we can. But let me get into this because I think we've got the right guy at the right time to talk to us about this. It's Dave Jaworski. He's an industry specialist, retail consumers at Microsoft, and the author of Microsoft Secrets: An Insider's View of the Rocket Ride from Worst to First. With over 30 years experience, sales and marketing and management experience, Dave has helped organizations in multiple industries across the globe. This includes developing and delivering profitable, award-winning technology products. He's famously known as employee number 3 at Microsoft Canada, instrumental in launching Microsoft's Canadian operations, and was awarded the first ever Bill Gates Chairman Award of Excellence, recognizing him as Microsoft's #1 employee worldwide, exemplified excellence by Bill Gates and the Microsoft executive team. Dave founded Passalong Networks, providing digital media services for 200 plus clients, including eBay. Passalong patented technology for e-commerce and sharing music. Passalong was the first in the world to innovate and implement micropayments with PayPal. He's also the founder of Meta Media Products, helping clients transform their customer experience, enhancing their employee engagement, optimizing their operations, and creating new products and services. And lastly, in July of 2017, Dave returned to Microsoft to join an elite team of digital advisors working with Microsoft's top accounts around the world to help them refresh their organization, to include Teams engineering and then Microsoft 365 Copilot, where he helped organizations worldwide transform their business and leverage AI. Let's welcome in Dave Jaworski. Hey, Dave.
Thank you, Joe. Great to be with you.
I need a glass of water after that. We are honored to have you. And this is such a heavy topic when we really drill down, and it's going to be a fast 20 minutes. So we're going to touch on three things off mic that we talked about that really are what I would say top of your list. We're honored to have you here today. But before we get too serious about a serious conversation, I have to ask you, so you live in Nashville, USA now, and you have some interesting stories to talk to us about your late night grocery shopping.
You never know who you'll meet. Yeah, I went to a grocery store late at night. There was a bus. I figured out afterwards it was the tour bus loading up to go out on the road. And other than that shopper that came off that bus and myself, we were the only ones in the store. And so I come up to the checkout till and I look up, and who's in front of me but Keith Urban. And I said to Keith, Keith, can I have your autograph for my daughters? I said, they just saw you perform last week. It was incredible. He said, where did I perform? And it was like a little pop quiz test. And I said, at the Ryman Auditorium. He goes, yeah, that was a great night. And then, so we're both searching our pockets like, I don't have a pen. I don't have it. And the guy behind the register pulls a long sheet of the register tape, so cuts it off, puts it on the desk, and hands us a pen. And I said, I've got 3 daughters, and he signs me 3 autographs on that sheet of paper. And that was my late night grocery trip. You never know who you'll meet.
Did you have your makeup on when you were there?
Yeah, no, unbelievable. I've actually had the pleasure of bumping into him and Nicole later in a coffee shop. So again, it's just crazy things that happen. And last night I went to see some folks, and there was a guy that was on American Idol. So you never know. And it's Nashville.
That it's Nashville. Wow. Well, let's transition, Dave. You wrote a great book just a few years ago. Maybe we could get that up on the screen real quick, Christian. There it is. That's what it looks like. And there's the QR code. You just take a picture of that. It'll take you right to where to order it. It's a great book. It's a fast read. It gives you some insights in the, what I would say, sort of the early years to mid years of what Microsoft was all about. And we've got Dave here today to talk about what he's doing with Microsoft today, how we want to dig into the AI situation. Let's look at what our agenda, our focus sheet is here today to quickly cover that. We're going to look at AI search and privacy. Number one, how AI is quietly rewriting search and why that matters. Two, where bias actually creeps in, often unintentionally. And thirdly, what individuals and organizations can do right now. So Dave, let's go to number one. What do you mean when we talk about that? What are your experiences in real time today when we bring up these subjects?
Well, first off, when AI was just coming on the scene, generative AI we're talking about, we've had machine learning AI for years and years and years, but specifically when ChatGPT launched and we saw OpenAI and others coming on the scene with this new generative AI that you could simply dialogue with through a chat, I told people, stop using search. Go and just ask your question in your favorite AI tool, Copilot, OpenAI, etc. And the reason being, on search, you have to go and look and you get back pages of things that you have to filter through. And now search lets you get a curated answer, oftentimes a bullseye answer in your first question. And it gets rid of a lot of the riffraff that you have to deal with. You don't get all the clickbait that's trying to take you to a site that had a good headline, but it really wasn't about what you were looking for. It was just trying to get you into the site so they could show you ads and try and lure you to something else. So AI has been a great value in terms of getting better answers right away and then being able to dialogue with that. Search engines, you put in a query, you get back a response. It's not what you want. You try to refine the query, put it in, get back another response, and you keep iterating through pages of links, and oftentimes it's not going to get you what you want as quickly as you'd like to get it. AI can actually even give you a link to a video, summarize that video, and tell you at what minute mark to go to in the video to watch the thing that's going to answer your question. So beautiful use of AI, but the problem now is AI is filtering for you. And you've got to know that you've got a trusted filterer for you. Somebody's curating the information. So it reduced the friction, but the transparency's gone. So before, you knew which links you clicked on and which sites you were going to. Now AI is coming back with an answer and you don't know where that narrative came from. And so it's harder to know what you're not being shown. And that's where you can have problems coming in. That's why you need to be cautious. And so I've got some steps that I'd recommend people take in terms of especially if you're looking for something important. If it's how to fix your pressure washer, you're not at great risk. But when you're talking about financial strategies or trying to dialogue with AI like a consultant, as many people do, you want to be very cautious.
Dave, I opened this up by just doing some reflecting in this phrase AI steerage, and it's mentally been on my mind for the last week as I thought about our conversation here today. AI steerage, and as it trickled down, as I thought about this, to reiterate what you just said, but I really want to echo this. The first thing that came to my mind is faith. And I read an article a while ago about, and I don't remember who did it, but it didn't. I thought just another article, but again, that kind of came into my thoughts here, and that is a pastor preparing his sermon, and he goes to AI, and AI can write the entire sermon for him, saving him 3 or 4 days of research and all of the stuff that he typically would do besides the prayer time that I would presume he takes in this. But let's back up for a minute. You just talked about how AI steerage is really almost creating a different path that feels like it's the right path, but not the right path. If there's a pastor
Awesome.
watching us today, and now we've got a technology expert that we're talking to, and Dave here, what 1 minute insight can you add to that to kind of help this pastor through the steady process and the powerful tool that AI can provide, but with some bumpers on that?
Absolutely. I was giving a talk not too long ago to a prayer group where the average age had hair like mine. I'll just say that. And they were cautious and fearful about AI.
Mhm.
And so I said, well, let's just do a little example. And I brought up a chat dialogue on the screen. And I said, who is Jesus? And the answers came back were all over the map. They were talking about depending, it was a worldview, it was not necessarily a Christian worldview, et cetera. And then I said, now let's put a guardrail in. And I said in the prompt, you are a theologian for a Christian theologian. Who is Jesus? And the answers came back within that guardrail. Then I said, you're a Catholic theologian. Who is Jesus? And the answers came back within that set of guardrails. So you can set yourself up for some success simply by putting down what I would call a pre-prompt. It could be the first thing you mention in your prompt as you're setting it up. And this applies whether you're doing a theological question or you're doing a business question. Oftentimes you need to set the guardrails up. Who's the persona that you want the AI to take on? And then that puts automatically a filter on the information that's there. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but it makes it better. You get a better answer. So to that person who's preparing their sermon, I would say make sure you come up with a standardized set of pre-prompts that you use and drop them in every time you're going to do this kind of exercise with AI. And that will set you up for a greater success. And then the second thing would be often I find it helpful to have a couple AIs open. I'll use Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, and I'll have Claude, for example, up, and I'll put the same set of prompts into both, and I'll do a compare and contrast. And then the other thing that's really important, and this is where that transparency comes in, when AI was first giving you back answers on search, for example, it often wasn't even citing sources. It was just giving you an answer. These good AIs are citing sources. So you're not saying, well, how did they come up with that? You actually have a link you can typically hover over or even click a list of sources and then see all of the articles that it went to. So then you can use that as a backup research to your work. So you see the answer, you go, okay, I like that, but you might want to dialogue with it. Maybe you're doing a research about a message from Jesus about multiplication of loaves, and it sparks another thought, and you want to continue that dialogue, continue that theme. You can have that dialogue back and forth where a search engine would never give you that kind of ability to hone it in. And even to say, I need a story to set this up. Or if you're like my dad, I need a dad joke to set this up. He loves to start things off with a little bit of humor to open things up. And so now you've got a theme that you're working on and you can get a humor in that set, et cetera. But the neat thing is by setting up those little guardrails up front, all of a sudden I get much, much better answers. And it's important for you to think about what are your guardrails that you're going to put up.
Right.
And validate the sources. Don't give up your thinking to the AI. AI is better as a muse to work with you, as if you and I, Joe, were sitting in a coffee shop and I said, hey, I'm going to do this talk about the multiplication of the loaves. And Joe, here's what I'm thinking about doing. I didn't say, Joe, tell me what to say. I said, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And I lay out kind of an outline for my thinking that I've spent time in prayer on. And now you come back and give me some feedback and I say, okay, well, that's interesting. What about, and now we go back and forth. That's a
Yes,
better way to use the AI as opposed to tell me what to say on Sunday because I don't have any time and I've got 5 minutes for sermon prep.
that's fascinating. That also, then we could insert, we just went from faith, we could bring that to our finances. Someone trying to
Absolutely.
figure out, hey, I'm 62 years old, 65 years old, and what happens if I push off taking my Social Security until age 70? Here's some information I can tell you. So it's going to give you that truthful steerage That's my
Well,
term.
I'll say it will
Um,
give you a perspective. I would always say go to a financial professional to validate before you make your moves.
yeah, yeah. You don't want to do open heart surgery using AI. Let's put it that way on yourself.
No, I don't want to be the
And then
beta tester of that.
yeah, yeah. So you can insert your physical or your health
Hmm.
goals and with some specifics on that. Maybe there's 4 or 5 top things that people could use AI for that are really influencers in your life. Faith's important to me at the top of my list. That's why we leaned into that today. And just so people are tuning in right now, we're talking with Dave Jaworski, author of Microsoft Secrets: An Insider's View of the Rocket Ride from Worst to First. We'll be putting up information on how you can go right to the QR code, pick up that great book. It's a great read if you're going on a spring break vacation. We're into the early part of 2026 right now as we record this, but that's why I think of spring break. But it's a great read for summer, fall, etc. And we appreciate Dave joining us today. Dave, we want to go to number 2 on our agenda today, and where bias actually creeps in. And you're saying that it's unintentional.
It can be, because most often these models, large language models, have been trained on ingesting the internet. And
Yeah.
so they're taking data, and all AI is under the hood, if I'm going to oversimplify things, is a prediction. It's a prediction. You give it a phrase, that word or a few words gets broken down into what's called a token, and AI's job is to predict the next token. So if it's seen a lot of something, it's more likely to use that information to give you the next token, the next phrase, the next words. And so its bias is often historical based on what it's ingested. So that's one thing that's really important to keep in mind. It's not a
Yeah.
lot of
So,
people give
for
AI this
example,
credit.
I was writing a letter. It had some financial information in it to an organization, and I wanted some data to back up some specific data that I mentioned in the letter. So the letter was on hold, and I went over to AI and I put in some information. I don't remember what AI version I used, but they knew I was writing this letter and specifically the organization by name. And then they gave me the data, and I just sat there with my mouth wide open, almost, like I had someone peering in on what I was doing from the same room. That's that's the first time I experienced something like that, and I don't know if I like that or not.
Well, you're going to have this muse available to you. Right now, it's available when you ask a question. That muse is going to become more and more available, your option to be watching as you work and offering suggestions. We have an AI in our Microsoft Teams meetings that you can invite as a participant, and it can offer suggestions as the meeting's going along. It can even pull in data from the corporate network, private to your discussion, private to your company, and pull that in real time into that discussion. So we're going to see AI taking on a more almost like a person role in your life, in your meetings, as your coach for writing, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah.
And so all of these biases are important to understand as you're thinking about, how is it helping me create? Well, it's helping me create based on what it's been trained on. And there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
feedback loops. So, for example, the AI, today's AI is starting to learn more and more. And how does it learn? It is actually just watching what you respond to, what others are responding to, and it's starting to discern, okay, that was a bad answer. This is a good answer. And therefore, next time I can make a better prediction.
Dave, we've got a minute left. Let's go to item number 3. What individuals and organizations can do right now to close this up, to create some urgency, but not fear? Can you maybe take 40 to 50 seconds to just address that and kind of leave us on a high note if that's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. The goal isn't to stop using AI. The ostrich approach doesn't work. It's not going away. It's not a passing fad. So the opportunity is, how do I use it? How do I embrace it? And we've already talked about some of these ideas, and that is use multiple search perspectives. Go to your search engine, ask the question different ways. If you find a way that works with your pre-prompting, save that. You can even create an agent on your own that will become part of your workforce. And now when you want to write, you can say, use my writing agent. It's digested all of my Joe Simon writings and it writes more like me. And so you can start to put guardrails on it, start to teach the AI how to be helpful to you personally. Look at the sources. When you got back those financial data sources, make sure they're right. So click on those sources. Is it saying what it told you it's saying? AI does hallucinate, and that can be a problem. So you want to make sure that you validate. Don't just take it for granted. Don't try to give 100% of the work over. And then make sure that if you're in a company that you've got the right governance set up and auditability set up for how your agents are being managed. Microsoft just released something called Agent 365 that lets you manage all the agents in your company. And people are starting to treat these agents like people, like employees, giving them permissions in the same way that I have permissions to see certain files. You should have that same kind of governance on your AI, that it has certain permissions, just like a person that is an employee. So governance, trust but verify, and set the parameters up for success.
Love it. Hey, Dave, let's take a look at your book again real quick for people that are interested in knowing more about Dave, some of his early on experiences. Dave's a fascinating guy, as you can tell, and he takes the complex and makes it sort of easy. We appreciate you joining us here today, Dave, and I think what we need to do is we need to come back and we need to drill down on this fascinating stuff. Most of the people that we try to attract in the work that we do over here on my side today is that 50 plus group. And one of the things that we learn when we go through our anti-money laundering CE that we have to do every year in my world is it really talks about people that are your and my age, 50 plus, 60 plus, people that have some wealth now. And wealth means that they might have a 401k and they're living a comfortable lifestyle. But we make mistakes and we're embarrassed when we make the mistakes and we swallow the fraud that people are trying to feed us. AI search, this steerage thing is part of that. So for someone that's in their in the red zone, let's call it, of their life, you always want to be careful about fraudulent activity. And I know most people are. But you know what? It's time to maybe build what I'm going to call just a bigger, stronger, more robust firewall with this AI steerage. It's a beautiful tool to have, but we just need to know how much power it wields. And I think with that said, Dave, we want to get back together and talk to you again here. We appreciate your time and we'll arrange time to bring Dave back. Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, Joe. Joy to be with you.
Well, so that's it for today. And as I always like to say, have a prosperous day, and it never hurts to be a great student of your finances. So thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to the Joe Simon Podcast. Big ideas with powerful stories and real-time solutions. Business succession planning, executive benefits, employee benefits, tax beneficial savings, and more. Remember, information discussed here today is dated and not specific to your situation. Always seek personal counsel from qualified advisors. Joe Simon is a licensed insurance agent in the state of Wisconsin. Licensed to advise on accident and health, life insurance, disability insurance and annuities, as well as qualified long-term care insurance.